All right, and we're on for week 12. Rather unfortunately, I'm sure your eyes are drawn immediately to what's going on the bottom of the screen there. And I just want to start with a disclaimer that this isn't a terrorist stunt or anything like that. Max, if you there you go, you can see his tagline. Max, I guess if you want to explain this situation.
Oh, well, last week I was riding the high of being the top scorer in the league, almost a 150-point game. And I followed that up with the worst in the league, and not just the worst in the league for the week, the worst I've ever seen playing fantasy.
It was bad, like monumentally bad.
Right. We've got two negative numbers, which I'll get to, and what went right and what went wrong. Of course, nothing went right. Everything went wrong. And I will explain just how inept my fantasy team was. So I have earned this bag of shame, and I will wear it for the remainder of this week's podcast.
Proudly, or I don't.
I guess you gotta own it. I mean, if we're in this situation, you gotta. It's hard to do unless like you sit all your players, and that's really the only way you can get there.
Well, we'll get to more of that in a little bit, but
I have an alternate explanation. Max, did you say you got a haircut last night?
I did.
How'd it go?
That's the other thing. That's the other thing. The big I could show off my snazzy new haircut today, and
see, I'm working with a theory that the barber might have slipped a little bit. This elaborate theory.
That doesn't happen.
Cover story.
That doesn't happen to my barber.
At least save that for bold predictions. Oh man. Well, before we dive into some headlines, and there are a few and some other topics to get into this week, just very quickly on injuries. We got pretty much the entire Denver Broncos position players. So Julius Thomas is an ankle injury. Not sure what's going to happen there. Emmanuel Sanders has a concussion, and Monty Ball's still dealing with the groin issue.
Was that not the worst hit you've seen like in years?
Oh my God, Emmanuel.
That was bad.
It was bad. Well, it was bad enough to the point where someone changed. I don't know if you saw this. Changed his Wikipedia page to "died in St. Louis" on that day.
Bad form.
Yeah, that was brutal.
You know
Mid-air, like airborne, not touching the ground, and then like completely switched around.
It was like the worst case scenario of that Elway dive, the helicopter tackle. If that had gone bad, that's exactly what it would have looked like. So that was brutal.
The guy led with his shoulder. I mean, I understand he was a defenseless receiver, but if he wouldn't have hit him, he probably would have caught that ball, and that wouldn't have, who knows what would have happened. So that might have been the play that won the game for him. So
yeah, craziness. So and then just one other that serious-wise that to throw out there is Brandon Cooks. Officially out for the season with a broken thumb for the Saints. So that's kind of big. I don't know how you want to look at that, but yeah, that's all I got for injuries. Unless you guys can think of anything.
Giovanni Bernard, which always goes
unmentioned.
He has been upgraded to questionable. He was out. And he was at practice today, and he is questionable.
Him?
And one other to mention in terms of coming back is Foster should be back this week. So he was out last week with that groin injury, and Alfred Blue filled in well, nicely. I didn't think to check my roster out running errands before the game. Worst decision ever. Don't agree to do something for your significant other, wife, girlfriend, whatever, at like 12:30 on a Sunday, and have not checked your fantasy roster because that can come back and bite you.
Yes.
Especially if you host a fantasy show.
Yeah.
Actually,
leader.
It was bad.
We looked to you for guidance.
At this point, I forgot it, and you know what? At this point, it was like my season's shot, so I have no chance. I'm not saying I'm folding necessarily, but
against me tends to do that to people.
Yeah, I just
fight or flight.
I got so nervous and I just got out of there. I didn't want to deal with it.
One other one. Fred Jackson's supposed to play.
He's supposed to be back?
Yeah, he's supposed to be back. If anyone cares.
Good stuff. Good old Freddie. But yeah, actually, that's one of the headlines I want to start with. Is what's going on in Buffalo right now. They're saying that they're going to get their game still good to go Sunday. But that, I mean, they've got like close to 10 feet of snow happening up there, and it's a mess. They're offering to pay people $100, or I'm sorry, $10 an hour to come shovel.
Yeah.
And they're
Plus
offering
tickets.
plus tickets. So yeah, that's a unique situation, and one that you got to look at for fantasy, because that if the weather continues through the weekend and whatnot, it's supposed to get a little bit warmer, but that snow is going to stay there, and it's going to be a mess. So I expect like a 13-6 kind of game or something like that. Throw in the fact that they're playing the Jets, so it's just going to be quite the mess up there in Buffalo.
Yes.
Yeah, but other quick headlines to get to. Adrian Peterson, done for the year, suspended without pay for at least the rest of the season. So we'll hang on and wait till Fantasy Football Preview 2015 to see what the impact is there. But the Vikings did go and claim Ben Tate off the waiver wire this afternoon. So if you had Tate and he got cut, well, he's still on the team, so you can have him on your roster if you so choose. Josh Gordon, by the way, is back. Speaking of the Browns, and Mark, I think you've been stashing him all year, so it's high time for him to get in the starting lineup there. So that must be a nice
now.
Yeah.
So,
going away.
right
There's
in
nuts
time
for
the
winner.
playoffs.
Yeah, those nuts are mine now.
and one other big headline to throw out there, the one that came out of Monday nights that I'm sure everyone in this podcast knows about, but only half of you care about is the fact that LeGarrette Blount walked out on the team and effectively walked himself off of the roster in Pittsburgh. So sayonara to Blount, and I don't know who signs him with that kind of attitude. So I guess I'll let you guys. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were of that, and sort of what did you think of him?
Oh, well, I just think that LeGarrette Blount, he ain't a Stiller, and if he's not a Stiller, he can walk his ass back from Knoxville, Tennessee, for all I care about. I was in John Eagle the other day eating my chipped ham sandwich, and I heard the news. I was like, this guy ain't a Stiller. This is not what Franco would do. This is not what Big Mean Joe Green would do, okay? We're talking about the Stillers here.
The Stillers, okay.
No, I'm probably gonna be the only Pittsburgher Yinzer that says I want to look from it what happened from LeGarrette Blount's point of view or his side of the story. And here's what I'm thinking. During the off season, they talk to him, they bring him in, they say, listen, we want to get back to our old school Pittsburgh running first, physical style football. Which in the preseason, that's what they talked about all preseason. They say to LeGarrette Blount, we have a young back. We kind of want you to come in, be a time load, split carries with him. And in the beginning of the season, being a Le'Veon Bell fantasy owner, I saw a lot of LeGarrette Blount work. Carolina, those two had a monster game. I think LeGarrette Blount had, 1 or 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards rushing. So then, you cut to last week's game, and LeGarrette Blount doesn't receive one single touch in the whole game. Now, I don't know if that was Tomlin's way of, maybe there was something that happened on field, and him just saying, hey, listen, you got to learn your lesson, or was it Bell was just having that great of a game, and he didn't want to, take him out. So I'm really interested because if that's the case, and they said, listen, you are going to be a timeshare, you're basically our back also, and then he doesn't receive and his carries keep declining, I could kind of justify why he would be angry.
Right.
Here's what I hate about all this. And living in the city where priorities are where they are, 2 things happened on the day that LeGarrette Blount got cut. One, the Pittsburgh Pirates lost Russell Martin to free agency, who just happened to be the most successful free agent signing in that franchise. Is 150-year history, who left for an obscene amount of money, and then option B, the backup running back got cut because he walked out on the team. Guess what dominated the airwaves? And then the same thing here. We're talking about some guy who's not really relevant to fantasy or to the game of football in general. He'll never play again, and he was he had 4 carries a game. Who cares? Just plug some other name in there. That's what New England did.
It's not like he was getting a lot of carries, but the interesting thing about him is I think I heard this stat right. Maybe it was someone. No, it was someone else. But his runs, they're always monster runs. He runs hard, and you can't discredit him there. But he is a legitimate cancer type personality in the locker room, like really bad. I don't know if you're just from everything from at Oregon punching guys in the face, that incident at Boise State. I don't know if you remember, and then even like that basically resulted in him not getting drafted. Went undrafted, got signed by Tennessee, and like his first week of practice with Tennessee, went and clocked a teammate in the face in practice. So you don't bounce around the 4 different teams in 5 years and not just be that kind of asshole. And this was you get so many chances, and this sort of seems like it would, in my opinion, be the last straw for him. I don't know that. He's a talent, don't get me wrong, but do you want to bring that kind of guy in?
I would argue he's not even like talent. He dominated the playoffs last year. I think it was partially an opportunity, and New England let him walk without even the defense him offer.
And what does that say?
It says he's replaceable easily, and they just signed some other guy off the practice squad that does basically the same job. So I think he was in the right place at the right time. Yeah.
To say he's like completely fantasy irrelevant, I think that's like a exaggeration. I mean, the guy has had good games. He's been a starting running back, and if it wasn't for all of his like character issues, he would still be here and potentially be more fantasy relevant. But just he gets in the way of his own talent, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever going to be a huge numbers guy or like a Foster but I think he's got a place on the team. If Peyton Hillis could do it, he could do it. You know what I mean?
I just feel like he's a power runner. It's not like he's like a blazing. He doesn't have like blazing speed or anything.
Doesn't.
Get somebody else that's willing to like punish their body.
He's good for like 2 leaps over a defender a year.
Yeah, like he's an explosive runner. Like Rob said, like he may get like 4 yards, but then he hits a hole, hits it hard, and then next thing you know, you have a 40-yard gain, and it's not because he's outrunning people. It's just because of whatever.
Overmatching him.
Yeah, he could be a top back for one of the teams that has like no running game. It's 100%.
I think
you disagree?
Yes.
You don't think he's better than
Toby Gerhart or Blunt?
Oh, neither should be in the NFL.
Toby Gerhart was a starting running back this year.
Yeah, he was horrible. He had like
for the Jaguars. I mean, they got Robinson now, but
there's 2 places I think he could land in, one being New York and the other being Oakland.
He'll never play in the league again.
You say that, Mark. I want a quick run through the rest of you. Yes or no? Does he play? Does Bell or Blunt play again?
Yes.
Yes, no, and I'll say yes, but I with a caveat that it's like in the preseason and he doesn't get.
But nobody cares. Same thing with Ben Tay. Ben Tay got cut, and it's not like there's a long conga line of teams like waiting to sign him. Like
Minnesota was.
Indianapolis has like a glaring hole, and they shrugged. Same thing with like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh could have signed Ben Tate. They don't care.
Yeah. It's a crazy situation, and just obviously one that needs to be mentioned. But and speaking of character issues and situations like this, Mark Sanchez, guys. I feel like
Speaking
of backup caliber players, Max, I feel like this is potentially reason number 2 why you have the bag on your head. That was an awful performance last week. I know things were said on the show. Small sample size. I know things were said on this show. But, it was a small sample size. But the other thing I want to say about this, and then I'll let you guys have your say, going to Green Bay and playing right now is equivalent to going to Seattle and playing in that kind of environment. I don't know that it's such a tough place to play, and they're putting up 50 points a game there, and it's everyone's allowed to have their crappy game a season, and that just happened to be.
Oh my goodness!
There's that. Now go ahead.
I don't know who I'm more upset about: Max's 180 turnaround, or the fact that Rob's sort of defending him still.
Whoa, mine's not 180. I wasn't on board this completely on the Sanchez. Run back the tape.
Yeah, I would like to run back the tape. I will after this and prove to you.
I feel like you weren't saying stuff, but you were agreeing with Rob a good bit. I feel like you liked what you were hearing.
My point was that he needed to win in Green Bay to win the starting position. I wasn't ready to give it to him right quite yet.
But no. That was for the long term. You guys were talking about like permanently replacing Foles with Sanchez.
No, I said, not yet. We'll have to win at Green Bay. If he wins at Green Bay, then he gets it.
You also said that he was a really good quarterback, and it was the Jets that made him look bad, not.
Yeah.
And he said that you put him in the Chip Kelly offense, and all of a sudden, you get to see what he can really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said those things.
You also said that. Well.
Hey, I'm going to say that 2 games is still a small sample size.
Fair enough.
Call that blind faith or what have you, but I don't know. And it's going to be hard to even judge this week because they're going up against Tennessee, I think. So
okay,
this stretch of games, this final six games of the year, I mean, it's make or break, I think, for his career right here. How do you bounce? I don't know, whatever. But how do you bounce back from a loss like that? Just so much going on. So the jury's still out. The jury is definitely still out. I'll back off a little bit from what I said last week and all.
Packers aren't even known as a strong defensive team either.
It's known as a tough place to play.
Yeah, they're not. But Lambeau is a crazy place to try to win a game. And I don't know if you remember, the only reason the Eagles went up there last year is because the MVP for them was Scott Tolzien. They were going up against. So that's Scott Tolzien, the third string quarterback for Green Bay that got thrown in after Rodgers went down, and then who they had? They had not Seneca Wallace. Was it Seneca Wallace? Last year it was on the Packers? Yeah, and he went down. So Scott Tolzien.
That's right.
You guys could be giving me shit too, because I said that the Eagles are the best team in football last week. But that was under the bold predictions, okay?
That classic Hope jinx.
Meanwhile, my curmudgeonly ways prevail again. I excused myself from that conversation last week. I would not indulge in such childish speculation.
That's fair enough. Well,
right, and let me make one more loading point. Okay, I get Philadelphia's good on offense. Points scored. Right now, Philadelphia's at 299. I know Pittsburgh's played one extra game, but they're at 288. That's not too far off. So let me make a false equivalency. Ben Roethlisberger broke his collarbone, and Bruce Gadkowski came into the starting job. Under no circumstances would I say this man has a future with the team.
Yeah, but you're talking about, listen.
Put him in that Haley offense, and he'll do wonders.
Ben Roethlisberger has 2 rings.
Yeah, what are you talking about? He's got 2 rings in practically a decade in the system.
I wouldn't say the Steelers are on the playoff wagon and Gradkowski's going to take them where they need to go.
That is a bad comparison.
That is a terrible comparison.
Here's why. Gradkowski probably has better numbers in his career than Sanchez does.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter about anything. It's you're talking about Gradkowski didn't start as many years as Sanchez did. Gradkowski didn't take somebody to the AFC Championship 2 years back to back. I mean, Gradkowski didn't do all of these things. We're talking
about a false equivalency.
What did he say? Max, will you please put the bag over Mark's head for his nonsense?
Plenty more.
All right.
I said
all right, enough of
these things.
Mark, you're derailing the show, so we're going to move on ahead to the next segment, which brings us to right and wrong. Do you want to redeem yourself right now, or should we let someone else go?
I just want attention.
You just want attention. All right. Fair enough. So why don't we let Max? Do you want to go first, or you want to say?
Yes. And this segment for me, at least, will be what went wrong. Everything. So let me count these up. I'm looking at them right now. I have 6 players who scored 3 or fewer points. 6 players on my team. And only one of those 6 scored 3 points. The rest scored 2 or less, and 2 of those 6 scored -1. One of those is an Eagles defense coming off of a 30-point game. Yeah, 31 against Carolina, and then throwing up the -1. And then a kicker, Cleveland's kicker to be exact, Billy Cundiff.
Which, by the way,
-1.
that's the most difficult thing in our league is for a kicker to put up negative points.
It's unbelievable.
I didn't think it was possible. I thought
I scoffed at somebody earlier this season whose kicker scored 0 points. Well, not to be outdone, they show up with a -1. Also, to put things in perspective, if I went up against you and you had Jonas Gray or Mike Evans, that would have been all you needed to beat my entire team.
I had 2 players on my roster that happened to outscore your entire team.
Yes.
I didn't even need to play one of them.
So
God.
that is what went wrong, hence the bag.
The bag. Well, keeping with the wrong theme, I guess I'll go. I'm just going to chalk mine up to the fact that the fantasy gods are smiting me for me ever saying that Nick Foles is a first-round draft pick. This is their way of getting back at me. I'm still the leading scorer in the league in terms of total points.
You are?
Yes, he still is. Yeah.
Still am, and despite on the other side of that coin, I'm also the team getting scored against the most, like by a wide margin. Like it's ridiculous. Everyone has their best week against me for what I feel
You got
like
a
I'm
bad
saying that
defense.
every week.
Tighten things up.
I know. I don't know what it is, but the only thing I actually did wrong that could have helped my team was I mentioned it at the top of the show about not finding time to switch out Foster for Alfred Blue. But even still, that would have helped me. That would only brought me to 106 instead of 90, and I still got outscored by 24 points with that. So, yeah, I just have a shitty year going on, and there's nothing I can do. So I'm just accepting that fact and packing it in. There's no getting a higher draft pick for sucking in this league. So I just let the straws fall. The straws fall in my favor come draft time next year. So. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I'm catching up to you, Rob, so I'll go next. I'm down by 20 points, so hopefully by this time next week you can no longer use that excuse, the highest scorer in the league, because you'll be dethroned. But what went right for me this week, and I actually needed him to, it all came down to this Monday night game. Le'Veon Bell put up numbers, and I mean, I don't know what happened because obviously we talked about the blunt being released, but I don't know why there wasn't a timeshare because it looked like, earlier on in the season they were afraid to use Le'Veon Bell or they didn't trust him or something. But he just had a monster game. He'll be my MVP. And I don't know if you guys are superstitious, but I won by more than points than I needed to. But at one point in time I was up by like 2 points. It was like 112 to 110. And the announcers were like, Le'Veon Bell has not fumbled in 257 carries. I was like, all right, here comes the fumble to lose the game. But now he held the rock, and I think at the end of the game they ran the same play like back-to-back, like 5 times in a row. He just picked up 10 yards every time. So good job, Le'Veon Bell.
Can I ask how you feel about his 33 carries? It was like he only went above 20 twice this year, and then he has 33. I know that obviously that had something to do with the blunt situation that was going on, but do you think that's something that can be sustained?
Sure. You know what? I mean, I don't want to overhype him, but I mean, he's like a taller, slender guy. Like he kind of reminds me of like Adrian Peterson, because Adrian Peterson was never like a LeGarrette Blount, like short, stubby, or Peyton Hillis. Like those guys, like always considered stocky and like battering rams. But if you watched what was it, William Gay that Peterson ran over about 4 years ago?
Yeah,
just demolished into the ground. And that's what I see with Le'Veon Bell. He took a huge shot from a safety, and it looked like the safety got just as good of a shot as he gave. So I think he can sustain it if Adrian Peterson can. I think he can.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and maybe I'm just getting more cynical now with running. You've already heard this in this show, but I feel like running back's a little more interchangeable. Like the average career of running backs, like of a passable running back, is about 4 years anyway. You might as well just get your production now while you can and just pound those guys. I actually endorse what Dallas is doing with Murray. People are worried that like the work rate's going to break him down. So what? He might break down anyway. Just keep pounding him as much as you can. And Marshawn Lynch was like the biggest red flag in terms of like, oh, he has too much work. He's like getting too much tread on his tires. he's an obvious breakdown candidate this year with all these red flags. He's doing the same thing. Just keep marching him out there. There's almost no way to predict. Just run these guys because it's their job. And if it doesn't work, get another one.
That's fair. I think Mark,
Running backs are cheap. You can get them in like the third round.
Yeah, you can keep the attention and go into your team. What went right and wrong against me this week?
Well, pretty much everything. It was a good week. Not that I was all that surprised, but all right. I hate to say this, but when I look at Mike Evans, dare I say Gordon-esque.
No.
He's got that little gleam of Josh Gordon in him where I start to think, like, he's sitting there, he has like 125 yards or something, like 130 and a touchdown. And I'm like, I could really use that 200-yard bonus. Wouldn't it be funny if he just like got like a 60-yard touchdown or something? Before I finished thinking that, I like refresh my iPad and I see Mike Evans, 65-yard touchdown reception. And you can't teach that.
Where's he from? What's he
from? He was he made Johnny Football his money.
He was his money. Okay.
But when you get those, like, when you get a guy that gets like 200 receiving yards and you think like, wow, that was fast. When did that happen? You just know it, and I get that feeling. I think he's the real deal, and I think he's going to cause havoc in the playoffs.
See, I think that's what I think that's almost. I think sometimes we get caught up with good teams and good players on good teams like the Bengals and AJ Green. It's almost like, what would you rather have? A Mike, is it Adams or Evans? Mike Evans. Mike Evans, who you could basically get free. Did you draft him or?
No, he was a waiver claim.
So undrafted guy on a bad team but has immense talent. You know that they're going to be behind a lot of games. You know you're going to get a lot of garbage points rather than someone like the Bengals where AJ Green's a top level talent, but they might be in the games or over teams, not throw as much, a little conservative. So those types of gems are really good to find.
I get that feeling too, and it's just. Yeah, it's like garbage production. The quarterback sucks too. That's another nice feather in his cap. Like
McClown.
Yeah.
McClown.
It's one of those things. Like, he might be the scariest player in fantasy. He might be like the most productive wide receiver from here on out. And it's just like, if he doesn't have the shackles of a game plan, they have like no running back. The coach is kind of iffy. Like, their season's shot, they might as well just chuck it.
Yeah,
that's really deadly. Like, that's more deadly than what the Steelers can do with Antonio Brown, because they theoretically are in the playoff hunt and they have to adhere to like a structure.
Yep.
Tampa, whatever, who cares? Just throw it.
Yeah, this point of the year is when those guys on the teams that are looking to just evaluate guys, the bottom half of the league, those guys fantasy-wise are dangerous production-wise right now.
I mean, if right now in the season, AJ Green or Mike Evans, who do you pick? I think I pick Mike Evans. As crazy as it sounds.
Not even.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's nuts.
I would take him over, I think, any other receiver in the league, like right this second.
Then Calvin Johnson.
I would rank him number one.
Demaryius Thomas.
Thomas is tough because he's on a good team with a good quarterback in a I don't give a crap mode because they're going to throw it and
no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, they were up on the Oakland Raiders like 2 weeks ago about I don't even know, they had were up by like 20-some points, and they were still chucking the ball. I don't know how that happens.
That's just how they work. I mean, it's like Indy. All they're going to do is throw. Even when they're trying to run out the clock, they'll just.
Yeah, you still gotta watch out for Tampa Bay. They're in the hunt, man.
Yeah, they're only 2 out.
Yeah.
Also, hey, golf clap for Mark.
What
on the Atlanta bandwagon.
I acted it so you would remember.
The miraculous Atlanta Falcons. When they gave that stat, first off, I wasn't paying attention to you win this show because you were like something about blah, 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 Atlanta Falcons, blah, 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 going to win their division. I was like, all right, whatever. It's Mark. Instead of the Jaguars this year, he's hooked up on the Falcons for ratings. You rating whore. But then I was watching Red Zone, and they were like, the Atlanta Falcons. 1 game out of first place. I was like, what? No, they're like 3 and 6. They're like, yeah, if they win and then all these other teams lose, they're going to be number 1 in their division. I said,
you think a 6-10 team wins that division?
No, 7-9.
Yeah, Tampa Bay wins that division. You watch. They're scrappy.
No
They're going to come
way.
on strong. Tampa Bay's winning that division.
Max, if Tampa Bay wins their division, I'll put a bag on my head for the
They gotta go. They gotta go 5-1 down the stretch to do that.
They'll do it. They're hot. They're on fire.
They got that one win against Washington.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil the show too much, but when we get to the bowl predictions, let's just say I got some tricks up my sleeve when it comes to Atlanta Falcons.
Fair enough. Well, let's work on getting there. So we got MVP of last week. I'm just going to throw mine out there, and it's Jonas Gray, his 4 touchdown performance for New England, which it's pretty obvious. 4 touchdowns for a running back doesn't happen often, but it's happened twice this year already. So
Not just 4 touchdowns, Rob. You're selling them short. You're
Yeah.
like 200 yards rushing. 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns.
It was a big day. Big day. So.
Of the year for anybody. Did anyone do better this year than that?
Lynch came
I don't
close
think
last week.
Marshawn Lynch had 4 touchdowns last week. I don't know if he went.
200 yards?
It was close. I think. I don't know. I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
We could research that. But,
I'll look, guys.
Nah.
Don't get up. No, don't get up. Just ask the question, Max, but don't ever answer it,
Oh man. So other MVPs of last week.
Evans is the easy one,
Evans and Bell.
and I prefer the easy way. I'll take Evans.
Evans, Rogers. Rogers is the top of the pack for position.
Lynch had 140, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, Rob's stealing my thunder.
Sorry. It was right in front of me. My bad. Yeah. So the MVP of this week. I'll start with this one again. DeMarco Murray. Max, you'll like this one. Going against the 32nd ranked fantasy rushing defense.
And
The Giants are giving up 22.4 points a game against opposing running backs. DeMarco coming off of a bye, having rest, getting his legs fresh under him, coming back off of that trip to the UK.
Gill needs him more than ever.
I think he's going to get a max. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Murray outscores your team from last week against the Giants. So it is. So I would not be surprised with that at all. So he's due.
For upcoming weeks, you know who I like, and it's not because I just picked him up. Drew Stanton. I like what I see out of that guy, out of the old gunslinger.
Who's Drew Stanton?
Arizona's new QB.
Oh, my word.
I like what I see. I mean, he might be a good quarterback that they just wouldn't start because you've got Carson Palmer there that they were about to pay a lot of money to. But he looked good last week.
No, here's what I have in
First
this.
start.
This angers up the blood with me.
Okay.
This goes back, like everything, this ties back to the Steelers and how I hate that coaching staff. I hate what they did with Arians, pushing them out, and how a retired man could become coach of the year. And then coming up Vince Lombardi, he's the best coach, the best in-game mastermind. He's the best at getting talent out of his players, and he's also the best at lying to his players. He's like the modern-day Vince Lombardi. He's telling a quarterback that has no talent whatsoever that he's good enough to win the Super Bowl, and the quarterback believes them. He actually buys into it, and he's like play faking, and he's like, "Here I come, Drew Stanton takes on the phone," and he throws
Super Bowl MVP.
He heaves his underthrown deep ball to Michael Floyd that doesn't get intercepted. And somehow catches it. Then he does it again, and he doesn't care because he believes.
He would be the best coach on the Pittsburgh staff.
But he's the best coach in the league. I would actually vote him in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not even joking. I think he goes to the Hall of Fame. I think they win the Super Bowl this year, in spite of all odds, and he's going to win another one at some point.
I like that Arizona team. I like them a lot.
Mark's ready to rename the Super Bowl trophy after him. The
Arians.
Arians trophy.
Where the hell was this guy? He is an amazing coach.
Yes.
He's better than Pagano. He was a better coach there.
Yeah. Better than Haley. Way better than Haley.
Everyone. He's definitely better than what he got fired from.
Yeah.
All right, I'll continue on and get off of this. Bruce Arians love fest that we have going on. I'm going to suggest someone that we might not necessarily expect, although he's a big name for MVP this next week, just because this is kind of how the Patriots have done it for so long. Tom Brady, I think he goes back to throwing multiple touchdowns. I know that they have this running back who is amazing. I'm a little skeptical. I was ready to sell the farm on a trade offer to get this guy. I mean, I was ready to offer big people for this guy, and I don't know if Scrooge McDuck over there would actually. I think the Colts went in not as most people did, not really knowing who their running back was. Gray.
Yeah.
Gray was, and I think that the Patriots changed their game plan up next week to kind of make people guess and air the ball out a lot more. So look for Brady to have a big game. I know they're playing Detroit, which has a really good team or defense, but I'm not concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I like it.
Is that everyone?
Mark? Or was Bruce Arians?
What were we talking about? I got
MVP for the coming week, but I think
that's why I talked about a head coach for 5 minutes, right?
Bruce Arians is the MVP for next week.
Mike Evans. I have more to say about him later, but we have segments. We have a segment producer that pushes the show along.
we got a time frame. We can't make this be too ridiculous for people, so we got to stick to the show. So I guess that leaves us with matchups, and I touched on mine at the top of the show a little bit with news. Just the Buffalo and Jets. That's one I think is easy to avoid right now, and honest to God, strictly because of the weather, and because it's the Jets. So you typically avoid anything with the Jets in terms of starting any of their guys, but just looking at what the conditions are going to be like. I really think it's going to be a single-digit, potentially low double-digit type of game. 13-10, something along those lines. So not many points to get. And if you have other options, I would look for them. So that's just one to avoid. Next.
I like Indy against Jacksonville in Indy. I wouldn't start any of their running game because Trent Richardson, he sucks really bad. But any wide receiver, if you have any Indy wide receivers, I would suggest them. Jacksonville's still pretty bad, and Indy's coming off of a tough loss, and I think they're going to have their stuff together for a good game.
I like Kenny Stills. I get a feeling about him now with Cooks being out. So the instinct is, the two beneficiaries that everyone's talking about are Colston and Stills. And everyone just says, the standard line, I like Stills because he's getting a little extra, but I like Colston better, and it's because he's a known quantity. But I think he quietly sucks, and I think he's been like that for a while. He's just a glorified possession receiver. I feel like Stills at least has a glimmer of hope of being a big play guy, and you might as well just go out swinging if you need a receiver. Don't just settle for the boring possession guy.
I like Dolphins and Broncos. I want to see what I don't have any questions about the resolve of the Broncos team. I think they're a really good team. I think they had a little bit of a slip up, but I think people are really undervaluing them now, and I think that they think the injuries to the team are more significant than what they are. Last time I checked, they still got Peyton Manning taking snaps, so I think that's all they need. So despite Miami having a really good defense, I think they come out there and blow them out of the water. So
here's one to keep.
Okay.
Here's one to keep an eye on. That's gonna have some really interesting storylines going into it, and it doesn't seem like it would. But Jake McCown is going back to Chicago this week.
Yeah.
To take on the Bears. That should be interesting. Mark, you already mentioned Mike Evans. I think for this, or maybe it was last.
I teased it.
You teased Mike Evans.
But okay.
I would love to see Evans go up and just thrash that secondary, which I think is a very real possibility. And then you see Cutler and McCown going gunslinging. It has the potential to be that kind of game.
You forget who else is going back to Chicago? Head coach, Lovie
Lovie Smith. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. So I'm looking just at the quarterback, but yeah, that's Lovey's. That is a game chock full of fun storylines heading into it. So
Here's a fun matchup. San Diego against St. Louis.
I was going to mention them too. Can
like that game.
Can we for a second look at their wins? I know their first win of the year was against Tampa Bay for the Rams, but since then they beat Seattle, San Fran, and Denver. And let's not forget that they were very much in a game against. They were out of it, but they were very much in a game at the end against the Eagles. So they could have 5 wins against very quality teams.
Yeah.
It's going to be a boring game to watch, though.
Yes.
Both these teams have a horrible style. It's just like run, dinky pass, run, dinky
Yeah.
pass. 40 yards.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis went in there and took that one at all because
This
how
is
San Diego's playing.
That's the thing, though. There's 2 teams that you don't know what the hell they're going to be every single week.
Yeah.
Something different. Chargers look like a Super Bowl contending team. Then they look like, one of the worst teams in the league. And same thing with the Rams, is they beat good teams and they lose to bad teams.
This is a game that really tests my convictions because I know 2 things to be true. Like 2 things I really believe. I really believe that San Diego sucks and that they're overrated and that their style of play is not sustainable. But I also feel like St. Louis is built to disappoint. Every time you buy into them, and I do every year.
Yeah, they're that kind of team.
Who's
coming out of the gate like 1-4?
Who's their quarterback? Who's their starting quarterback?
Sean Hill.
Exactly.
So this is the thing.
Exactly.
And then that's why I have to say I hate San Diego, but I feel like they have to win this game because Louis is built to disappoint. You can suck and win, but St. Louis is built to disappoint. So judging just by taking that literally, they're going to let me down. So I think it's San Diego.
St. Louis is like the poor man's Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So true.
Sean Hill out quarterbacked old Peyton Manning.
Isn't that ridiculous?
That's crazy.
Bizarro worlds.
Yep.
Something
To me,
else
Brett
that-
is the most St. Louis Rams player ever because he's just a constant disappointment that I can never stop paying him.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was kind of mean.
Wow. Yeah. So bold predictions.
Oh, boy.
Silky segue.
Alright, you seem eager to get on this one, so I'll let you go.
Oh man, this is all right. I'm gonna hold on to the Falcons one. You can come back to me in a second. I'll just do the easy one, and it's Mike Evans. I'll put my cards on the table. I'll put him as the best fantasy receiver from this year forward.
Oh, I like that. That's bold, man. That is bold.
All right.
I got one.
Everyone up?
All right. Drew Stanton marches into Seattle and dismantles that defense in front of the 12th man.
Yep.
Oh, this
Oh,
is
sign.
Mark's like, no, that's not bold.
20-plus points for old gunslinger Drew Stanton.
top 5 tight end this week. Antonio Old Man Gates.
Woo!
Top 5.
That's bold.
That is.
We can do a little better. We can do bolder.
Robbie?
Well, I don't know how bold you want to call it, but I'm going back to that Chicago and Tampa Bay matchup, and I think McCown outduels Cutler. So, like I said, I don't know how bold you think that is, but
Boo! Come on, Boulder.
I like it. I like them to go back in there, and I like Tampa Bay to take that one. And McCown outduel Cutler.
Yeah.
Partly because of Mark's bold prediction about Evans. So
Oh,
they
okay.
play hand in hand.
So, all right. I guess it's coming back to me.
Let's come back to you, Mark.
All right. Well, I hyped it up because it's another reenactment. And
Uh-oh.
I really hate doing these, but give me a second. Hi, my name is Matt Ryan. You may know me as the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, who will be in the NFC title game.
What?
I'm going to lose to Green Bay 50-10, but it's an accomplishment. It's a 7-19.
Whoa.
Mark, you really think the Atlanta Falcons is going to be in the title game?
Yes.
Wow.
That's bold. That may be the boldest.
There's
That is
life
bold.
favors the bold. Aren't you bold? Um,
I don't actually think that, but it's a bold prediction.
yeah,
It could happen.
I think Sanchez has a rebound game. I'd say I'll say top 5 this week
Gotta
quarterback.
watch out for that Tennessee Mettenberger, man. You guys made him look like an all-star in the first half.
Yeah. I tell you what, if I have the Eagles defense, I am feeling really good about starting him against Mettenberger.
Yeah, I am.
My only regret from last week's bold predictions is I predicted that Mark Sanchez would get benched in game,
He almost did.
and they were so close. They were down by 39, and
He almost did.
Yeah, I was shocked he didn't.
What do we think? I know this is getting away a little bit from bold predictions. Just 2 things. One, the weekly question. I'll just get it out of the way. Does Oakland stand a chance for its first win of the year?
Who do they against?
Kansas City on Thursday in Oakland.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're not getting blown out. They're in these games most of the time. Or
It's an
maybe they get
over-under.
blown out.
Over-under's at 42.5 right now, and KC's got the line by 7.5.
I think probably not. You can't rule out the fact, like the chance of like a Thursday night like quarterback diarrhea game or something where
Right.
Alex Smith just falls apart, but I don't see it.
And the other one, another interesting one to look at, do the Lions stand a chance in New England?
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
I like Detroit. I think they're a good team, good defense.
I think they get blown away.
Yeah, they get blown away.
Oh.
But I think I'll go another bold
That's why you
prediction.
have the bag on your head.
I think Jonas Gray has under 100 yards rushing and no touchdowns.
All right.
Actually, I'd say the Lions have the toughest game of the week. Going in, how hot the Patriots have been in Foxborough. Yeah, no thanks.
Who's your best teams? Who's your best teams in the league?
Patriots. In the AFC, Patriots. In the NFC,
Green Bay looks freaking good.
Arizona and Green Bay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. Arizona and Green Bay. It's neck and neck for those two. But I don't think anyone's beat. I think the Patriots are firing in all cylinders. They look unbelievable.
I feel bad for Jordy Nelson because I finally am going to give him credit for being like a top wide receiver. That guy's good.
Yeah,
He's fast. He's good. I mean, I don't even know how many years he's been playing for Green Bay, but every single year I've hated him. When did he get drafted this year? Like 4th round, like 5th round? He's top level talent, like with Rodgers.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It's crazy. So, but this will be the end of him because now I think he's good. So obviously,
I wish you would have said that last week.
Yeah, Super Bowl. For the Super Bowl. I think it's Patriots, Green Bay.
A rematch of '99
Mm-hmm.
or 2000.
No, 97.
I'm gonna say Broncos Patriots. Broncos Packers. How great would that be?
I really think
I'd rather have Patriots.
I don't know. It's too soon for me to. I hate making these predictions.
I want Brady to go for a 4th ring. It's exciting. 4th.
No, it's not. It's terrible.
Great.
there's some other stuff we need to talk about. There's a sneaky game in here that could actually have more implication than people realize that I really think needs to be discussed, and it's Miami at Denver. I think Miami can win that game, and if they win that game, Denver is not a lock to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Miami's D is awesome.
That's the thing that nobody's like mentioning. Denver can completely just fall out of the playoff race.
Crazy to think about.
That would be wild.
But it's not.
If anybody wants that action, I'll take it. I mean, I'm serious. I will take Denver. It was Denver 7. It was Denver -7 against Miami.
Right now.
Miami is such an easy team to sleep on because they have been trash for years.
Yeah.
They're so boring. Their uniforms suck. They're like generic and boring.
Well, I gotta say those
The quarterback is okay. But say Kansas City beats Oakland, which is pretty realistic. They have Oakland again. I can elevate them to 9-3. If Denver loses this game, they'd fall to 7-4, and Miami would go up to 7-4. Miami would have the tiebreaker. Realistically, the wild cards are going to be like one of Miami, maybe one of the like AFC North teams. It could get hairy. Pittsburgh's already a 7-4, assuming they don't just fall apart. Like you could get you'd have like a 10-6 cluster.
You could have 2 NFC North teams or AFC North teams.
Yeah, we'll say like 1 or 2 of them get to 10 wins, and same thing with Miami. All of a sudden, Denver, like, if they lose this game, they'd be 7-4. They'd have to go 4-1 the rest of the way to really seal up a playoff spot.
And what's their schedule like? How many more do they have against Oakland? They got another one against Oakland, don't they?
Yeah, but it's week 17. Yeah, I'm looking. Miami at Kansas City. Say they lose that game, then if they lose the next 2 games, they'd be 7-5, and that's panic time.
Oh man, and Denver's got to go to, just to give you an idea, Denver's got to go to Kansas City, go to Cincinnati,
And at San Diego.
at San Diego.
San Diego is still in there too. If San Diego beats them, they start to kind of muck up the race a little bit.
Man, and Kansas City down the stretch.
And Kansas City's hot.
They got Oakland twice. They got to go to Arizona, and then they got to go to Pittsburgh.
And they've beaten good teams. They blasted New England. They're the last team to draw blood against them.
Crazy. It's gonna be a wild finish. Fun to watch, but
In the AFC at least, NFC
Yeah.
it seems like it's pretty much locked
Well,
up.
the NFC East, I got to say, is going to come down to literally the 2 games between Philly and Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
know that one of those teams gets the. Maybe with how bad the NFC South is, I don't know. I feel like both are going to make the playoffs. Just a matter of seeding.
I feel like it's one of them.
I know you say the NFC South's bad, but I mean, who feels confident playing against New Orleans?
In
I
New
don't
Orleans, no. They have to come to you though. That's the thing. They're going to have to.
Necessarily, they just lost to San
Now, it's
Fran.
in Atlanta. You got to go to the Georgia Dome in the wild card round.
I'm just saying, like, if I'm the Eagles or I'm the Steelers, I don't want to play New Orleans, especially at home. Like, they have the talent to win. Maybe they have been losing but I mean, they're right in there in every single game. So
I don't know. Their defense looks awful.
Yeah, I don't think they're good.
No, I don't think so either.
Doesn't matter though in the South. You don't have to be good.
No, not at
to
all.
go to the playoffs.
It's crazy. Any one of those teams could. It's unreal. What a mess that is. But
Go Tampa Bay.
I feel their pain, except I can't make the playoffs. So I know what it's like to
Doesn't
suck.
stop you from making trades.
Just trying to share the wealth. That's all.
I'll give you Le'Veon Bell for Arian Foster, straight up. You can't tell me that's not a better trade.
It is. You
Yeah.
tell me you want Arian Foster, I'll do it.
You don't want Foster, dog. I don't know. We'll talk off air.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I guess after this week, it's only one more until the playoffs start, boys. So have
Yeah.
fun. I'll be holding up the consolation ladder. Probably losing there too.
It's a tight race. Stressful weeks lie ahead for our league.
Luck to you. Hopefully, we don't see any paper bags on the show next
Oh
week.
God, I hope I can retire this thing.
No one's making you wear that.
The suspense. We'll save the haircut for next week. All right. We'll see you in week 13.